Right. Just horses in the field here. Ponies, I should say. Yeah, a lot of May blossom. Right, we were talking about structure. And it's sort of being packaging for what you're doing. I had a great teacher as a teenager, a guitar teacher called Alan Bellany, and he used to say, you know, music isn't the notes, they're just the brown paper bags that the music's actually in. They've always sort of stuck in my mind as being such a good way of describing it. A bit like saying that music's in the spaces. And again, if you think about it, it makes music really difficult to teach in that sort of slightly esoteric sort of way. But I've sort of been interested and drawn to that over the years. You know, been lucky to listen to sort of musicians who come from traditions that are different from ours, whether that's sort of Mongolian music or African music or, you know, South American music, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But there is something else going on that is very hard to define. And after I had my heart attack and a stroke back at the end of January, I thought, well, I've got to get this stuff out there because, you know, it's just something I need to do, whether it's of any use to anyone or not. But these are sort of fundamental building blocks to the way that we run things like the summer schools. That isn't just turning up and playing a song. It's about turning up and finding something about yourself and playing a song. And these sort of elements are important. So when I was interviewing Ben Thomas a couple of weeks back, Ben spoke about, you know, how playing very simple parts in a song. And Adele's last band had two guitarists. They had to be really in depth. And he said it was a very sort of almost Zen-like type thing of going deeper into this sort of very simple idea that they were doing. And it sort of resonated with me because it's sort of completely the opposite of the sort of guitar shredding stuff, which, you know, it's got its place and everything. And obviously when I was younger I did plenty of that myself. But you realise as you get older it's sort of not very economic. And in most musical styles it's actually not really of any use. And of course, to become a good musician you have to be able to really listen to what other people are doing without this sort of idea of what you're going to do. You know, what preconceived ideas of how you're going to use that technique. So it sort of brings me on to this idea of people like Eddie Van Halen. And although Eddie Van Halen didn't invent tapping, he rediscovered it for himself. But there were certainly a couple of jazz guitar players who were doing that stuff well back into the 1950s, even probably earlier. But Van Halen sort of managed to do something amazing with this sort of technique. And of course he was able to sort of slot it into, I mean, famously Beat It by Michael Jackson, which on the face of it may be, you know, you wouldn't have thought of doing that, but obviously Van Halen did. But then you've got to look at the people like him and Hendrix and all the rest of it. They have something going on in their head that's different. And I've often sort of pondered this thing with Hendrix and Van Halen, that, you know, when they're given something, because they've got it going on in their head, they're able to do something with it. And then after that, people are just copying it, which is different. So the story I normally tell is Hendrix and the wah-wah pedal. That when it was given to him, nobody actually knew really what this thing was going to do, really, because it was just basically a tone pot in a box, controlled by your foot. And it was Hendrix managed to make the top, and that was it. And then after that, Hendrix, or later, Eric Clapton. So that's the type of thing I mean. The technology sort of traps you, or the technique traps you. So this is something to bear in mind. When you've got a technique, are you using it, or does it trap you into a way of thinking? It's an interesting point, because all technology does that. You know, if you go back to the time when the technologies had to be made by hand, you know, a bow and an arrow, you think of the complexity of that, being able to fletch an arrow, being able to get a piece of wood so it's straight, make a bow, make the cord, make the glue to put it all together. It's amazing, incredible. And now somebody who wants to do archery can go and buy a bow. It's astonishing. But that means that there are certain subtleties that you haven't got if you haven't made it. And you can see why people gave tools and weapons names, because they'd made them, or they knew somebody who'd made them. They didn't just go into a shop and buy it. So they were imbued with something. Fascinating. So, is your technology or your technique trapping you? Think about that and see if there's a way that you can control it.